Hey, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be doing a review of sorts of Baldur's Gate 3, going over the benefits and the drawbacks of the game. So, to get started off here, for those fans who like games like Dragon Age or Mass Effect, like deep like rich story games where like your choices can lead to vastly different outcomes and like just a lot of options available. Baldur's Gate is probably one of the most in-depth like games I've seen on the graphical level that it also achieves. Um, but it also manages to do the Dungeons and Dragons thing very well. Obviously, there's still some things missing from the game. Uh, some things, obviously, from D&D are almost impossible to kind of translate to a video game style scenario because there's a lot of player choice based things which doesn't come from a list, it's more just the imagination, so it's kind of like whatever you want it to be. And obviously, video games have limitations in that regard, so that's not a fault of Baldur's Gate by any means. But I think that they have managed to pull a lot of what they could from D&D and put it into this. There's obviously still some things missing that could have been implemented, but the game does have a strong modding community, which is another point I want to make heavily for this. If you play it on PC, of course. Granted, if you're on console, unfortunately, there's not really many options for modding on there. But if you are on PC and you have the ability to get this game on PC, I would recommend it for the modding community. I think Baldur's Gate has the potential to have a modding community as strong as games like Skyrim or Fallout and Gary's Mod and just all these games that like live on through its community of people creating content for them. And Dungeons and Dragons is a perfect game universe for a modding community to really thrive in with that. So I really look forward to seeing what happens when official modding support comes out, which we are getting soon. I believe sometime within the next month or so. I'm not entirely sure. I know it's coming soon from what they've been talking about. So we'll see when that comes through the pipeline. But anyways, let's get back to the game. You can play this both with keyboard and mouse or controller, and surprisingly, you can switch between the two fairly easily. I've got a controller here, and then of course my PC setup. But the controller abilities and stuff are fairly simple. When you get abilities, they'll be added to this radial menu, and you can just cycle through them. It's LB, to cycle through, and then that's your typical radial menu. You just spin the thumbstick and then press A, uh, and that's how that works. You can customize this wheel. If you press X, you can set the slot, and then you can go through all of your abilities and select something else to put there. So it's fully customizable. I believe you can even you can add another radial menu if you want to. So you can have as much ability stuff queued up as you want to. And then, of course, with your PC interface, if there's a weird cut there, just know it's because I cut out some story relevant conversation. But with your PC abilities, they're all nicely neat put right here. You can hover over them, they'll tell you what they do. You can also fully bring up like your common abilities, my barbarian related things, items in my inventory. I can check what my passives do, and then you can set like custom stuff from your inventory onto this bar. So it's really nice, well put together. You can also check anything that can be used with a bonus action, with your action, rage charges, which if you're playing something like a sorcerer, then you've got more options with like sorcery points or monks using ki. Uh, there's a vast amount of options available at your disposal. Inventory management is pretty straightforward. Typical RPG. You've got your equipable menu here, your weapon, light source, musical instrument if you can play one, uh, and then of course you have your standard drag and drop inventory. You can just kind of move things around in here. You get bags that you can put stuff in, and it's very simple. With controller, it is a little bit more frustrating. I think keyboard and mouse has its benefits and controller has its benefits, and they both have drawbacks. Because with controller, there's not really a drag and drop thing. You can only like bring up a menu and then send things to camp. There is a multi-select thing, so you can select multiple things at once and send them to your camp. But uh, PC, I do like the drag and drop method a little bit better. Uh, but also, again, controller gets the multi-select. So it's like on one hand drag and drop, but on the other hand multi-select. So you kind of get benefits and drawbacks of doing both. Me personally, I play the game a lot more with controller over keyboard, but I do like keyboard and mouse on it. Uh, a lot of the reason I do prefer controller over it is because when you're doing keyboard and mouse, it's more point and click for movement, and I'm, I mean, it's fine. I've never really been a huge fan of it. I like my typical like RPG, and when you're playing with a controller, I can zoom in like I'm in third person and walk around. So personal preference there. Now I'm going to attempt to show you guys some combat here. Um, Honestly, I'm probably just going to hit my companion. I've already saved and everything. I'm not in honor mode or anything at the moment. So which, by the way, honor mode is basically this game's version of hard mode. If you die, it's game over. You have to start over with a brand new honor mode run. Um, it's honestly a really good challenge. I don't recommend starting it if you've no experience with the style of gameplay. There's a lot that you should know, and I fully recommend experiencing what the game has to offer through a full playthrough before even touching honor mode. Um, you could start with it, but I would not recommend it. Kudos to anyone who has done it on their first run. You are a completely different animal than I am. Um, but combat works fairly nice. So conveniently, I actually do have a magical ability here. So obviously, combat works very similar to D&D. If you're too close to something and trying to use a ranged attack, it's going to have less chance of hitting because you have disadvantage from being too close. There are features and effects and stuff you can get that get rid of that drawback. I know there's one for bows that make it where you don't gain disadvantage if you're close to a target and try to use a ranged weapon. I'm not sure about spells. I can't remember off the top of my head, and I'm so sorry. But like, you queue up abilities. This is, of course, with controller, which weirdly enough, this is something that happens sometimes, and I could be misunderstanding something. But I have disadvantage on this, but I have a 90% chance on that. But then I have a 30% chance on the disadvantage on this one. So I'm not sure how the percentages work. I'm wondering if it's I have a 90% chance of failure with this, and then obviously if it's not red, then it would mean I have a higher chance to hit. But I'm not sure. I don't know if that's how that works, because is this just a 30% chance of failing on here? That I'm not entirely sure on, and it's one of those things a little bit probably reading into the mechanics a bit more, but either way, there's ways around those things, or just move your character further away from the target and you'll be alright. As you can see, this character has a higher chance, but when they walked by me, they had less chance to hit. So, There are a lot of different abilities that the game offers, and learning everything will absolutely take a long time. Also, if you're playing solo, you can switch between your companions and you can walk around. And the cool thing is, if you talk to an NPC with one of these characters, you are talking to the NPC as that character. You will have their dialogue options as if you were playing that character. And then if you are in co-op, a player can either choose an origin character or create their own character. It's same as if you would, and then whoever interacts with it will take control of the conversation. There is one minor issue I have ran into, just more of a forewarning to anyone who does intend on picking up Baldur's Gate. We did run into an issue where we had originally one copy of the game, so we started a campaign in split screen, and then we eventually got. Well, okay, we had one person doing split screen, and we had another person playing on another system through multiplayer. So we had split screen and multiplayer. And what had happened was and then eventually got 3 copies of the game, and were able to each play on our own system. Well, when the person who was originally split screening with us went to play on the 3rd copy, they were no longer able to access their personal chest in the camp. It's a weird bug or something with the game, because when you play split screen, the person doesn't sign into their own account. So technically, their box is logged to my account. So in order for them to access their stuff when playing on a different system, I have to access their chest for them because I have access to it. Now, if they get back on the split screen with me, it goes back to working the way it's supposed to. So if you intend on playing it split screen, play it all the way through split screen. But if you inevitably want to get 2 copies of it, I would recommend waiting to start, or just if you do start, keep in mind that you're going to have to finish that run like that, or the other person will have to access your chest for you. So it's a minor bug, but I figured it should be at least warned of. Beyond that, I've really not had too many major issues with the game. There's some wonky stuff with like actions and combat sometimes, where like maybe I'm just misreading an effect or something, but there's been times where I'll like lose an action or something, but that's no big deal. It's a minor thing. Granted, I can imagine if you're on honor mode, that would be really frustrating to have happen, because every move would count in that case. But it's not been something that's been hyper noticeable. And again, like I said, I probably just missed some effect that happened and didn't realize that I lost a turn, because there is effects in the game that do that. So it may have been just a fault of my own. That being said, I highly recommend Baldur's Gate, especially if you enjoy story choice-based games. And combat, again, it's turn-based, but it's a very fluid turn-based system. It works extraordinarily similar to like games like XCOM and stuff. Let's see if this will like. Yeah, so you get a lot of reactions. Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Yeah, so as you can tell, I had a lot of effects happen there, but it's also my own party, so I basically made all their effects go off by doing so. But normally what would happen when you enter combat is, oh lord, I guess, you know what, I can reload a save. We'll just anger some people real quick over here. So when you enter combat, well, I'm a little confused why nobody said anything about me doing that. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this is combat. You go to this little turn-based thing, and you have your action, um, and certain abilities cost an action, and certain abilities cost a bonus action. And then certain characters at a certain level gain 2 attacks per action. That's usually only for like melee weapons or crossbows and stuff like that. Unless you're like a sorcerer, then you can get twin spell and technically cast 2 spells for the cost of 1 action. It's a little weird. There's a lot of classes to learn, so but it teaches you the classes in a way that's easy to grasp. Like it doesn't just throw everything at you at once. It's a leveled system. It works just like D&D. You know, first level you get some abilities to get you introduced to your class, and then you'll level up and you might get a new effect or something, and it'll explain that to you. And then usually most classes like levels 2 to 4, they'll get like a subclass or something else that like really starts amplifying their character, and you get choices with those things. Clerics get different like gods that they can follow. Paladins have oaths. Monks have different like fighting techniques. It's really well done, and I highly recommend it. Obviously, not all subclasses from D&D are in here. There's a lot of source books for D&D, so I wouldn't have expected them to. But again, like I said, if you have the ability to play it on PC, I highly recommend it because of the modding community. And the modding community is very active, so I expect to see great things come out of them. Anyways, hopefully this does a good job of explaining a good fair amount of Baldur's Gate 3 to you. Also, if the top-down combat is kind of like, I know initially when I first looked at the game, I didn't really care for this top-down combat, but it works a lot better than you would expect it to. Um, they did a phenomenal job with how it runs, and it's a very intuitive system. You know, you make an attack, you just press A, you bring up a wheel, it'll tell you that like, hey, this thing will happen. It explains all of your abilities to you while you're selecting them as well. So there's a lot of things you can do to make your character unique to you. And like I said, I highly recommend Baldur's Gate. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope this video helped you out, and I will see you in the next one.